Okay, so what I'm doing here is a loaded internal rotation sleeper stretch. So the weight is what is really going to help me kind of get some more leverage and help really pull me down into this stretch. So I find with like stiffer people, a lot of times if you use load, it really helps. So right here I'm using a 20-pound dumbbell. Usually I like to start people off with like a 15 and then kind of work up to a 20. But the main things is you want to keep that bottom shoulder, that shoulder blade glued to the ground. So you can't have that shoulder hike up, and you shouldn't have a space between the ground and your shoulder on the floor. And then from there, what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of really relaxing into the stretch. So I don't have like any kind of active contraction going on. I'm just relaxing, letting that dumbbell melt me to the floor. And then once I hit my first roadblock, so for me right in there, meaning once I feel a lot of tension in the shoulder, then what you're going to do is you see how my top hand is kind of aiding as like a spotter and helping support the wrist and kind of helping with the weight. Because I want it passive, I want that at first. I don't want you having to tense and really fight this heavy load. So you're going to keep that top hand there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to contract that shoulder that's on the ground, the lower arm. And I want to try to think about being light on that top hand and pretty much letting go. And you'll see that I won't completely let off, but I am really light on it. And I'm trying to hold all that load in that bottom shoulder. And I can feel all the force going through that shoulder. And I'll hold that for around 10 seconds, just kind of doing the contract, relax method. And then I'll relax and let the shoulder melt down more. And you can see now it's flat to the ground. So I did an active contraction and then really relax and then let that dumbbell melt me down to the ground more. Once I'm to the ground, I can have a couple options here. I can try to lift the dumbbell off the floor, which would be a pels contraction work, meaning I'm working the progressive side angle. And then on a rails contraction, I can kind of really try to drive that dumbbell through the floor, which is what I'm trying to do here. And I can do that for like 10 seconds, really trying to push the dumbbell through the floor. Now, if you're not as far as I am, then maybe you have to repeat that process more times. Whereas maybe you're higher up off the start and then you kind of give a contraction, trying to hold the dumbbell, being light on the top hand, hold for 10 seconds, relax, and then melt it down more. And then let that dumbbell really melt you down, and then repeat the process and keep contracting, then really relax, turning all those muscles off, let the dumbbell melt you down more. And then until you get to the floor, or maybe you don't get to the floor in that session, but as far down as you can go.